Hey everyone, if you're shooting and your arrows are grouping off to one side and you need to get them off into the middle, you want to move your sight. So in this video we're going to show you how to adjust your sight, whether you're shooting a single pin sight like this one or a sight with multiple pins, compound, Olympic recurve, it doesn't matter. We're going to go over all of it, so stay tuned. Alright, so let's start off with some general rules of thumb for adjusting sights. What we want to do is we want to move our sight in the direction our arrows are grouping. So let's say our arrows are grouping to the left, we're going to move our sight to the left. If they're grouping high, we're going to move our sight up. If they're grouping to the right, move the sight to the right, and if they're grouping low, we're going to move the sight down. Another rule of thumb is that the farther away you get from the target, the smaller adjustments you need to make. So if you want to move your arrows, let's say a foot at 60 yards, you're going to move it a much smaller amount than if you want to move your arrows a foot at 10 yards. Okay, so now that you know the basics about how to adjust a sight, let's start off talking about probably the most common compound style bow sight, and that's a multi-pin sight like this one. Whether it's 3 pins, 5 pins, 10 pins, it doesn't matter. How these work is your top pin is going to be the closest distance and the bottom pin is going to be your farthest distance. So most people, they like to have their top pin be 20 yards and their bottom pin be however the farthest distance that they can fit inside their scope housing. How you set yours up is really going to depend on the style of shooting you're interested in, whether you're bow hunting, target archery, 3D archery field. You want to match how you sight in your bow to your chosen discipline, and it's also going to depend on how fast your bow is. So some bows you're going to be able to sight in at 20 yards and your next pin can be 30. Other bows you might need a pin for 15, 20, and 25, then 30 because your arrows are dropping more than a faster bow. The adjustments you can make on a multi-pin sight is all the pins can be moved up or down, and then the scope housing, the housing that houses all your pins, can be moved up, down, left, and right. And so the reason why you want different adjustments for your scope housing and your pins is, let's say you want that 20-yard pin to be at a certain spot or area in your scope housing, like maybe you don't want it too high up, then you can move your whole scope housing higher. Or let's say that you want to get more distance out of your sight, and in that case you would move your whole scope housing lower. So it just gives you more flexibility to where your pins end up lining up within the scope housing. And of course you want to be able to move left and right, and you want to move all your pins equally left and right. If you find that your left and right is dead on at 20 yards, but at 40 yards your left and right is off to one side, check to make sure that you're holding the bow perfectly vertical using the level in the sight, and make sure that your center shot is good by going to an archery shop and having them take a look at it. Another possibility is that your second axis could be off, and again, an archery shop can help you level that sight and make sure everything is going to hit right down the middle from 0 to 100 yards. So how to adjust a multi-pin sight? First thing you want to do is, let's say you want to adjust the horizontal, get that dialed in. You're going to loosen either the screw or the knob that controls the windage adjustment. So you're going to loosen that, and then some sights will have click adjustment for the windage, and some you'll just have to wiggle it and move it just a small amount, and then retighten that screw down, and then check, and then loosen again, move it a little bit more, check it again, go through that process until all your arrows are perfectly in line, and then you can work on dialing in your elevation. Again, there's two options for adjusting your elevation. You'll either loosen the screw that controls the whole housing, moving that up and down, or you'll loosen the individual pin that you want to move, and then you'll move that pin however your sight works. You'll move that pin up or down depending on where your arrows are grouping. To adjust a single pin sight, again, we're going to use that same fundamental of moving the sight in the direction our arrows are going, but there's a few things you want to keep in mind with the single pin sight. Just like you can move the entire scope housing on a multi-pin sight, you can move this bracket up and down by loosening these 2 screws and then taking it off and then reinstalling it higher or lower, and that just gives you a different starting point. So let's say that you really want to shoot a farther distance. You can set your sight bracket in a position where you can reach much farther distances. Just make sure that you get clearance from your arrow when your scope is all the way down. And then the other big adjustment that you can make on these is your scope can be moved left and right by loosening the screw that holds that scope into place and sliding it in and out. And again, that's just going to give you more adjustment range. Let's say you run out of adjustment range on your windage, you can loosen that screw, move that scope out more, and then tighten it back down, and then you'll be able to move your windage back into the center and give yourself more adjustment range. For the most part, you're going to be sighting these with either the elevation knob or the windage knob. Again, using that same rule, moving the sight lower when your arrows are hitting low, higher when your arrows are hitting high, left when they're hitting left, right when your arrows are hitting right. Alright everyone, so there you have it. That's how to adjust your sight, whether you're shooting multi-pin or single pin sight. I hope this video is helpful. We'll see you on the next video.